All right, everyone, welcome back. Ready for another deep dive? I thought we could tackle something I bet you think you know all about. Black Friday. You know, the ads, the crowds, crazy shopping stories. Maybe you even have some of your own. But what if I told you the real history of Black Friday is way more interesting than just, getting a cheap TV? We're about to uncover some seriously surprising origins. We're talking Wall Street crashes, football, and maybe even bust some of those darker rumors you've heard.
Yeah, you're right. The term Black Friday first popped up way back in 1869, and it had nothing to do with shopping. Imagine this. Wall Street, total chaos, September 24th, a Friday, and the gold markets in free fall. All thanks to these two, well, infamous financiers, Jay Gould and Jim Fisk.
Okay, now that's a story you got to hear more about. Ruthless financiers, a gold market crash. Sounds like a movie.
It really does. Gould and Fisk, they were trying to, corner the gold market, buying up huge amounts to drive that price sky high. Their plan was to sell at the peak, make a killing, but it all blew up in their faces, big time. That Friday, the market crashed. And it wasn't just those Wall Street guys who felt it. Everyday people, farmers, everyone got hit hard. And that's the first time we see the term Black Friday.
Wow. So from financial panic to the shopping frenzy we know today, what a change. There's another Black Friday story out there, pretty dark one, connecting it to slavery. Something about plantation owners getting discounts on enslaved people the day after Thanksgiving.
Right. That myth is unfortunately pretty common, but it has absolutely no historical backing. It's important to, separate fact from fiction, especially with something this sensitive.
Absolutely. So sticking to the facts, how did Black Friday go from a Wall Street crash to, the shopping event we know?
Yeah.
I'm guessing we need to fast forward a bit.
You got it. We're jumping ahead to the 1950s, landing in Philadelphia. Now, this is where the shopping connection starts to come in. But still, it's not about deals, really. The term Black Friday was actually used by, get this, Philadelphia police to describe the absolute chaos that took over the city the day after Thanksgiving. Massive crowds, traffic jams, you name it.
Oh man, I bet that was a headache for those officers.
Yeah.
What was causing all that commotion?
Well, you had, shoppers hitting the stores early for those after Thanksgiving sales, but at the same time, you had the annual Army-Navy football game happening in Philly that Saturday, so a ton of tourists on top of the shoppers.
So a recipe for total chaos. Tourists, shoppers, all trying to get around. No wonder the police dreaded that day.
Exactly. And if the crowds weren't enough, shoplifters saw this as, their prime opportunity, right? Taking advantage of the, overwhelmed police in those packed stores. It wasn't a day anyone looked forward to, especially not the police.
It's wild how, even back then, Black Friday was about crowds and mayhem. Though not really for the reasons we think of today, right?
Yeah.
Not about getting the best deals, but more just like the side effects of the holiday in a big football game.
Yeah, it really shows how a term can change its meaning over time. And speaking of trying to change meanings, Philadelphia merchants actually tried to rebrand the day as, get this, Big Friday in 1961, hoping to, ditch those bad vibes.
Big Friday. Not quite as catchy, is it?
Nope, it never really caught on. Black Friday was already stuck in the city's culture. They tried, but the name just wouldn't go away.
So how did this Philadelphia thing go national, become what we know today? It must have taken some serious marketing genius.
It did. It wasn't until the 1980s that Black Friday started spreading across the country, but even then, it still had that, negative feeling. Retailers needed to make it positive, get people excited. That's where the red to black idea comes in.
Oh, yeah. The going from red to black. But explain that for our listeners who aren't, accounting experts. How did that change Black Friday's image?
It was clever marketing, I'll give them that. Flip the script entirely. Think of it this way. Most of the year, stores are in the red, meaning they're losing money. But Black Friday, with all those shoppers and all those sales, they finally go into the black, meaning they're making a profit.
Okay, I see what they did there.
Yeah.
Suddenly, Black Friday isn't about chaos or crowds. It's about stores making money and shoppers getting good deals. Almost like they made it a celebration of shopping itself.
Exactly. And it worked brilliantly. That simple change totally reframed Black Friday, turned it into, well, what we know today. But of course, that's not the whole story. Black Fridays kept changing and growing in ways you wouldn't have imagined back then.
For sure. We've gone way past just one day of sales. It's Black Friday weekend, Cyber Monday. It's like a whole shopping season. But we'll have to save that for later. We'll be back soon to unpack how Black Friday has, expanded and impacted our world in ways that go way beyond just shopping.
We were talking about that darker side of Black Friday before the break. We've all seen those videos of shoppers going, well, a little crazy for those deals, but sometimes things get out of hand.
Right. It's funny until you remember these are real people
Hmm.
and things can, well, they can get dangerous.
Yeah, sadly that's true. Even with all the excitement, the deals, there are real risks with that frenzy.
Absolutely. It's easy to get caught up in it all, but Black Friday is not just about shopping, it's about people.
Hmm.
And those crowds, sometimes, they can lead to, well, tragedies.
Yeah. One of the most heartbreaking cases was back in 2013, a Walmart employee in Long Island. Jenny Matai Damore, he was trampled to death by shoppers rushing in on Black Friday.
That's awful. It really brings it home, you know?
Yeah.
We're not just talking about, like, abstract ideas here. We're talking about real lives. And it's not just, isolated incidents. There have been a lot of reports of injuries, fights, property damage.
Yeah, there's a website, Black Friday Death Count. It's been tracking these incidents since 2006, and their data shows there have been, well, 10 deaths and 111 reported injuries related to Black Friday shopping.
10 deaths. That's really disturbing. Makes you think twice about what people are willing to risk for a deal.
It definitely raises questions about how far is too far, and beyond the physical harm, there's also, I think, the psychological impact. Black Friday can be really stressful, anxiety-inducing, not just for shoppers, but for the retail workers, too.
That's a good point. We often forget about the people working. They're dealing with huge crowds, demanding customers, pressured to meet sales goals. And that must be incredibly stressful.
It is. Long hours, difficult situations, potentially even missing their own Thanksgiving. It's a tough job, especially on Black Friday.
It's a good reminder that Black Friday affects more than just the shoppers. And while we're talking about impact, we can't forget the environmental cost of all this shopping.
You're right. All that manufacturing, packaging, shipping. The carbon footprint of Black Friday is huge.
It's definitely something to consider. Our choices, they have consequences that go way beyond just our wallets. So Black Friday might seem fun on the surface,
Uh-huh.
but there are some serious downsides to think about.
Absolutely. It's complicated. A lot of different angles to consider.
Speaking of different angles, let's talk about how Black Friday has, well, how it's impacted Thanksgiving itself. It started as a day after thing, but now it's creeping into Thanksgiving Day.
Exactly. More and more stores are opening on Thanksgiving evening, blurring the lines between family time and shopping.
It's definitely a debate. For a lot of people, Thanksgiving is about family, a traditional meal, gratitude. But when stores open on Thanksgiving evening, it's like they're forcing people to choose.
And for some retail workers, it means they have to work. They miss their own Thanksgiving, makes you think about what's really important.
Right. Is a good deal worth missing time with family or asking retail workers to miss their holiday? It's a tough one.
It is. It is. No easy answers, but definitely something to think about as we, go through the holidays.
Well said. And Black Friday isn't the only shopping event that's, blown up in recent years. Cyber Monday, Small Business Saturday, it's like a whole calendar of shopping holidays now.
That's true. Black Friday kind of paved the way. Cyber Monday, for example, that's for people who, like to shop online. Deals and discounts just on the internet.
And Small Business Saturday is great for supporting local businesses, local communities, a nice change from the big box stores,
Yeah.
Encourages people to shop, well, more thoughtfully.
Yeah, it's a movement toward more mindful shopping, which is definitely a good thing.
So it seems like Black Friday's started this whole trend of themed shopping days.
It has, and it reflects this bigger trend of consumerism, and the holiday shopping season just keeps getting longer and longer.
It's amazing how Black Friday went from one day to this whole cultural phenomenon.
Oh, yeah.
Influences how we behave, what we value, even our holiday traditions. But why are we so drawn to Black Friday in the first place? What's the psychology behind it?
That's a great question. There are a few psychological factors at play here. First, there's the scarcity principle. When we think something is rare or limited, we want it more automatically. Think about those limited time offers, those doorbuster deals. They create a sense of urgency, like we have to act fast.
They're like that FOMO, the fear of missing out, kicks in.
Exactly. And then there's social proof. When we see other people buying something, we want it too. Think about those long lines outside stores, the packed malls on Black Friday. Makes us think, well, if everyone else is doing it, it must be good.
It's like a herd mentality almost.
Right. And then there's the thrill of the hunt. For some people, Black Friday is like a game, a challenge. They like the competition, the rush of finding the best deals. It's almost a sport.
I know a few people like that. They love making their shopping plan, mapping out their route, getting up early.
It's a real thing. And of course, there's the emotional side of it. Black Friday is tied to the holidays, the excitement, giving gifts. It's part of that whole feeling.
That's true. There's a certain energy on Black Friday, even with the crowds and the chaos.
Exactly. So it's a combination of things, really. Scarcity, social proof, the thrill of the hunt, and the emotional connection to the holidays.
It's fascinating how these things work, often without us even realizing it.
It really shows how much of our behavior is influenced by these subconscious triggers
Mm.
and how powerful marketing can be.
So we've covered the dark side, the impact on Thanksgiving, the rise of other shopping events, even the psychology of it all. But what does it all mean? What does Black Friday say about us, about
Yeah.
our values? Big question, but I'm curious to hear your thoughts.
Yeah, it really makes you think, doesn't it? Black Friday. It's more than just shopping. It's like a reflection of, well, us.
It is. It really sparks this whole debate about, consumerism, the impact of what we buy, makes us ask, what do we really care about?
Yeah.
And do our actions match up?
Yeah. It's easy to get caught up in those deals, but when you take a step back, you have to wonder, are we just like buying into a system that maybe isn't so good for us or for the planet?
It's a good question. Some people say Black Friday is like a symptom of a bigger problem. This idea that we need more stuff to be happy, that we always need to buy more.
The more is better thing. But like we've been
Yeah.
talking about, that kind of thinking, it leads to, well, buying too much, hurting the environment,
Yeah.
even putting stress on our relationships and our own well-being. Exactly. And Black Friday just feeds into that. It's like this promise of having it all, getting more for less. It's really powerful marketing. It taps into that desire for a good deal, even if we don't need the thing.
It's like a temporary fix. You get
Yeah.
that rush from getting a bargain, but it fades so fast. And then we're back to wanting more.
It's a cycle of buying, and it's tough to break. And it's important to remember Black Friday can make inequality worse. The people who can spend a lot, they benefit the most, while people struggling, well, they might feel pressure to overspend or just left out.
Yeah, it's like a system where having more money gives you an advantage, and others are always playing catch up.
It reminds us that we need to think about the social and economic side of our shopping habits. Black Friday isn't just neutral. It can make inequality worse and divide people.
So we've covered the dark side, the Thanksgiving thing, the rise of other shopping events, even the psychology of it all. It's been quite a journey, and honestly, it's given me a lot to think about.
Me too. But I think, we should end on a positive note. Black Friday can be about consumerism and all its problems, but it can also be a chance for positive change.
I like that. Turning a problem into an opportunity. How can we approach Black Friday differently? Both personally and as a society.
Well, I think the first step is awareness. By knowing the history, the marketing tricks, the potential problems, we can, look at Black Friday more critically.
So instead of just getting swept up in it all, we can make choices about how we participate, or even if we participate at all.
Exactly. That might mean, setting a budget, sticking to a list, resisting those impulse buys, the ones you regret later.
It's about being mindful of how we spend and making sure it matches what we really care about.
Right. And beyond our own choices, we can talk about Black Friday, have conversations about its impact. We can talk to our friends and family, share information about ethical brands, support businesses that do things the right way, sustainably, fairly.
So using Black Friday as a jumping off point to talk about bigger things, consumerism, ethics, sustainability.
Exactly. It's about taking a day that's usually about getting more and turning it into a day where we think about what really matters and how we can, make a positive difference with our choices.
So as we wrap up this Black Friday deep dive, here's the takeaway. Knowledge is power. Use what you've learned today to navigate Black Friday mindfully if you choose to participate. Set your own rules, stick to your values, and maybe, just maybe, start some conversations about how we can, be better consumers.
Well said. Every choice we make, even the small ones, can add up to something bigger, something better.
And on that note, thanks for joining us for another deep dive. We'll be back soon to explore more fascinating topics and, uncover those hidden stories behind the things we think we know.
Until then, keep questioning, keep exploring, and keep diving deep.